what a great way to kick off our morning together with so much insight on what is going on through the region. It's incredibly exciting for us. And we have three excellent panelists to bring to you this morning. And I'm going to ask that our panelists unmute and turn their audio on for this portion of the event. And for those of you who are participants, you did receive, along with your agenda, the bios and photos of the individuals that are on our panel today. So you can always use that as a reference and learn more about these very distinct and accomplished individuals that we're going to be hearing from today. But just as a quick point of introduction before we launch into our question set, I'd like to introduce our panelists. We have Pauline Cevigne. She is the president of Grace Aerospace. Joining Pauline is Orville Dothage. Orville is the senior manager at Northrop Grumman Aerospace Systems. And we also have with us this morning Michael Roper, and Michael is the senior operations program manager at Boeing Cecil Field. So welcome to each of our panelists this morning.
Thank you.
Excellent. I just want to make sure that all of you are unmuted and ready to roll. So we're going to begin our conversation this morning learning a little bit more about your respective companies. We had a great opportunity to learn more about the Cecil Airport and Spaceport, but if each of you could share a little bit of information about your company, particularly the role that your organization plays in this aviation and aerospace subset of the industry, that would be a fantastic way to kick us off. And to do that, Pauline.
Great, thanks for that, Julie. So hello everyone and good morning. I am Pauline Cevigne from Grace Aerospace, and Grace Aerospace was formed about 20 years ago now. My father spent his entire career working for Northrop Grumman, and when he retired, him and a few of his colleagues realized that there was an open spot in the marketplace, a niche, if you will. There were issues with original equipment manufacturers no longer supporting legacy aircraft. So some of him and his colleagues got together and they formed Grace. And initially, they were focused on product obsolescence resolution. And that was the primary focus of Grace. And we were originally called Grace Electronics. But over the years, we've grown and we've become Grace Aerospace. We moved down here to the Cecil Airport complex about 5 years ago, and we increased our capabilities to not just be electrical manufacturing, but to also include structural fabrication, CNC machining, systems integration, and we also have a paint booth so we can do finishing on aircraft. So our goal is to be a full-scale manufacturer for our customers, do the front-to-end solution on behalf of them.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Pauline. Orv, let's hear from you next.
I'm a operations manager at Northrop Grumman. I've been there for 33 years. Northrop Grumman, we have a multitude of sectors where we solve the toughest problems in space, aeronautics, defense, and cyberspace to meet the needs of our customers. Our corporation has 97,000 employees worldwide. We like to say that we define possible every day using science and technology and engineering to create and deliver advanced systems to our customers. As far as my background goes, I started off in quality as a quality manager and moved into manufacturing and have worked at all of our sites across the US and some overseas throughout my career.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And Michael.
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. Yeah, so I'm a senior operation manager for Boeing, and Boeing, as the world's largest aerospace company, we lead manufacturing commercial jetliners, also work in defense, space, and also have security systems. More so here at Jacksonville, we deal with the Boeing Global Services side, And what we do here is we've got about 400 employees. We work on F-18 model A through Ds and E and Fs, do all maintenance, modifications, heavy structures. We also take the Lockheed Martin F-16, we converted into drones for the U.S. Air Force as aerial targets. So that's pretty much here in Jacksonville for what we do.
Excellent. Thank you so much. A lot of activity going on here related to aviation and aerospace, and certainly we'll get into the weeds about the talent that's needed so that each of your respective organizations can function very successfully within those spaces and continue to grow and expand as you have. If we could move to our next question, and Orv is going to kick us off with this one, sharing some information about the primary job roles in your organization, along with some additional support roles, just to kind of give everybody on the line an idea of some of the additional job roles you seek.
Okay, so here in St. Augustine, we build primarily the E-2D. We manufacture the B-2 bomber aft deck and do some other conversions on different aircraft. That all requires some long-term strategic planning. We have a multitude of manufacturing going on. We have about 1,000 people at this location. Everything from electrical systems and flight testing. We need both operations folks and engineering in those. We have business management here at this location as well as some design engineering opportunities.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Orv. Michael?
Yeah, so the job roles we have here is, like I said, we have about 400 employees here at Jacksonville, and about half of that is the mechanic or the technicians level. For those skills, we look around electronics and avionics, general mechanics to do all flight control testing and hydraulic system testing. And also we have structural mechanics. The other half of the workforce would be like our logistics, our supply, our production control, help to get us the parts and the materials, our tooling, tool control, tool coordinators, and then we've got our engineers from our industrial engineers on scheduling the work, our liaison engineers that help get us the repairs or the modification clarifications that's outside of our released engineering that we work to. And then we have just the basic safety, quality specialists, program managers to make sure we have that customer liaison connection and we're meeting what our customers' goals are. You know, it's all in to bring the aircraft in, to tear it apart, inspect it, put it back together, do whatever mods or upgrades are needed for the customer, and then get it back out. And, you know, one of our key components here is with Northrop Grumman also. Since they're a partner in building the F-18, we do have about 40% of our mechanic workforce Northrop Grumman also, and they supply the same kind of skills that we do as Boeing. So we work together as a partner on that.
Okay, that's great. Talent sharing.
That's right.
All right, excellent. And Pauline?
So very similar to Orv and Michael, we have many of the same job requirements, but a much smaller scale because we are a small company. So we do have the engineering needs. We have structural mechanic, sheet metal mechanic needs, CNC machining needs, as well as all of these support functions. So purchasing. So for individuals that may not necessarily want to go down the path of the actual manufacturing work, there's a lot of support roles that are needed that are more what we call administrative support. So our purchasing team, our finance team, our sales and marketing, Quality is obviously a key that needs to be separated from production. They need to be independent so that they can review the work. So there's a lot of opportunities to do the hands-on work as well as the day-to-day support work.
Thank you so much. I think that's really important to point out the variety and the wealth of opportunity that exists within this sector. So if somebody says, well, I don't know if I want to be an engineer, you can still engage in advanced manufacturing. You can still be a part of this very exciting industry that continues to grow and evolve here in our region by plugging in and using your skills in a different way. So glad we are touching on those points this morning as well. Our next question, and some of you had addressed it a little bit, but just kind of giving us a brief statement of your own career pathway. And the thing that's always interesting to me is, how did you get into the current role? Was it something that you always wanted to do? Was it something that has evolved for you over time, or something that you fell into? Just give us a brief perspective on that, if you would. And Pauline, you can start us on that as well.
So I think I fall into that latter category of it's something I fell into, where my father started the organization. For years, they've said, come join the company, come join the company. I actually moved down here about 4 years ago after spending my entire career in financial services. So I was in Massachusetts as an auditor, and I was an executive at a bank in Massachusetts. And in that role, it was reviewing the efficiency and effectiveness of operations. So with that skill set and learning large business, it enabled me to come down here and implement some of those higher level skills, whether it be Office 365 and SharePoint. Those tools I was able to bring down here and help to grow and improve the operations of Grace.
Excellent. Thanks so much. Love the transferable skill reference as well. Michael, what about you?
Yeah, so I went to high school in Memphis, Tennessee, and my dad worked for the airlines, and I was always very good with my hands, and so I signed up to go to A&P school. There was the hub for FedEx's maintenance, and so that was the plan, was to go through school, get on there, but they kept delaying me. And then Desert Storm broke out. So I ended up joining into the Navy. And that's where I got my structural and hydraulic experience. Goal was always to get my airframe power plant license with the FAA. And so did all the OJT documentation, got that, got hired on at Delta Airlines. So I worked in Atlanta for 10 years before starting my own company, working mostly on Gulfstreams, the old G2s and G3s, and did that, enjoyed it, traveled all over the world until 2008 when the credit market crashed and the corporate world dried up as far as the corporate jets. And so I started in Charleston. It was before Boeing had bought their partners out on the new 787 Dreamliner. And that's how I got into manufacturing with Boeing on the commercial side. And didn't really need an A&P license, but it definitely gave me that foot in the door to where I could to get in there, understand the build of the aircraft. I started as a structural contractor mechanic for them. And then I became an inspector and went on to become a mechanical engineer once I completed out my degrees. And, did 8 years there, got into Boeing's a leadership program, and that's how I ended up here in Jacksonville. I came down here to Cecil Field to do an audit on the production controls. And through networking and just the upright opportunity at the time, I was able to exit out into a manager position here. And now I'm leading the F-18 program and really enjoying it. And I'm excited to be on this panel because that's one of the challenges I see is this finding good talent at the mechanic level.
Okay, that's helpful for all of us on the line. The mechanic to inspector to mechanical engineer pathway was interesting, but again, starting at that mechanical level. And then also this idea of taking advantage of networking and internal training for additional leadership, because again, we're always focusing on the career pathway,
Right.
you know, where you start, how you can maneuver through the industry. So you touch on a couple of interesting things this morning for our participants to hear. So thank you. And then Orv, what about you?
Well, I started off as a quality engineer at the electronics division, so weren't really focused on airframe work. We were building boxes and things for aircraft. And then I was asked to become a program manager in Huntsville, where we were building a submunition for the Army. So I transferred there until that program was over. Then they brought me back to California. And at that point, I moved into manufacturing, and my career started in aerospace from that point forward. So the first 10 years was spent on electronics. During that period, I've been a plant manager and production manager, and like I am now in operations management. But during that period, and something that Michael touched on, is I was the training manager as well for our sector. And we started establishing programs with the local community colleges to grow our own airframe technicians. We started them in California. We have one here with First Coast Technical College. And that's the way you are able to get into our industry as an entry-level technician. You know, the aerospace industry had such a downward turn for a while that there wasn't talent readily available to get. And you had to find ways to develop your own talent to start filling the job roles as the industry started rebounding.
Excellent. Thank you for that. And again, kind of showing that pathway, working within the industry, and a lot of willingness to kind of learn and grow and do what you need to do to take different positions within the industry too, which is great. You have to show the interest and enthusiasm to be able to do that, which are some great employability skills that I'm sure you'll be referencing in further detail later. Next question. So a large part of our audience consists of CTE directors, career specialists, educators, administrators, those that are part of community-based organizations, and they have touch points with individuals looking for new training and new skill sets. These folks are always evaluating curriculum, programming, training programs, and so they're curious to know some of this information. So first off, what kind of high school classes would be relevant toward developing this age group and getting them connected and plugged into aviation and aerospace? And also how to encourage students to pursue this pathway. We know that we need additional students interested in this pathway to fill the job openings. How do we encourage them to get involved and to check out this amazing opportunity? And Michael is going to lead us with the responses.
All right. Yeah, well, I think obviously the math and sciences are very critical in our industry. But even more than that, I think it's, you know, like when I was in high school, you had the small engine shop and the body shops and just anything with hands-on to get that aptitude. I think those are helpful. I don't know if they do them anymore. I know my daughter right now is a senior at Fleming Island High School, and you know, it seems we as Boeing, we tend to go after the young kids coming out of the military after a 4-year stint, right? That already is in that type of skill. But really, what I see, it's getting down to more of the basics. Is do I have the accountability? Are my employees showing up regularly so we can be, reliable. The accountability, ability to follow instructions. I mean, because we do have positions here like around supply and logistics, and it's just following simple basic instructions in order to get the job done. Because, we pretty much got everything written down to a science on how we flow from the parts coming in. I know Boeing, it seems to have it's easier for us to hire engineers with everything that's out there to support that, especially around the STEM applications. But it's difficult for the mechanical and the technical side. I think how do you encourage students to pursue that? One thing I'm doing like right now is the students need to know what that career growth is, right? I think ever since the computers came on board, you see like the very wealthy people like Bill Gates and stuff, and they got the computers, and so it's just like, oh well, I want to go be a computer programmer or something like that. It's just we have to start marketing our industry better, as this is a good paying skill, and you can have a really long career in aviation as a mechanic. Pilots get the notoriety because they're well paid and they're out front, but behind the scenes, you don't have that marketing around the mechanics or the technicians that actually make that aircraft either build it or get it to fly. So I think it's just more marketing that we have to do as an industry is around the mechanic level.
Okay, that makes sense. And I just want to throw out for everybody on the call and for our employers too, earnup.org is a resource we've been developing. And I know Michael and I talked a little bit about this, where we have our career pathway materials. And certainly we want to make sure that those materials get in the hands of our students, get in the hands of those that are maybe looking to make a career transition, so that they are aware of the multitude of opportunities and the amazing wages and growth potential that exist along in this industry. But yes, we all need to be promoting this awareness of these career pathways. I totally agree with that. All right, thank you, Michael. Next, Orv, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, Michael hit on some very key critical points. You can design all the things you want, but you still have to have somebody to build it. And he's referring to the artisans that put together the products that we all design and then need to be built. And again, not everybody is cut out for going and getting a four-year degree, and that's okay. I think we overlooked that as a country for a period of time. If you don't have somebody that has the capability to do the hands-on work and the build, it doesn't matter what you design. You have to have somebody to put those together. As far as high school goes, mathematics and sciences are key to manufacturing type jobs. But I also don't want to overlook the English language and communication. There have to be good communicators, both from above the shop floor and on the shop floor, to be able to be successful. As far as encouraging students and what to do, I think the partnership that we have with Antelope Valley College on the West Coast and First Coast Technical College here in Florida are key to bringing in the technical manufacturing people that we need. I know First Coast Technical College does tours over there to give schools an idea of what our industry is about. And they can see students doing hands-on work there. And if that's of their interest, then that's certainly a way to come in. I know Boeing and Northrop Grumman both provide educational reimbursements. If somebody starts off as a technician and then finds out they want to become a manufacturing engineer, for example, and choose to go that path of finishing a degree, those opportunities are there, and I'm sure Pauline has some other opportunities there as well. But you know, it's a great career path, whether you continue doing the hands-on work forever or you choose to go into a different direction.
Excellent. Something for everyone, based on your interests and aptitudes. And I really like the idea of the continuing education piece as well. Don't let it intimidate you out there. Anybody that will be watching this video that's thinking about their own career pathway, you can just start, get going in a company, and then see if that company will make an investment in you if you are making an investment in them. So glad you brought that up. And Pauline, what would you like to say?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. Obviously, when we originally hire somebody, we're typically bringing them in for their skill set, but it's really that person and their performance and their commitment to their work and their work ethic that will allow that progression in the company. So in terms of what we look for from a high school perspective, I would say some of the key things, and we touched upon this earlier, are communication. And whether that communication be orally or in writing, email is used constantly. And especially as we're now in this COVID virtual environment, it's become more integral to have strong communication skills. So even fundamentals of Microsoft Office, like Excel, we do a lot of our bill of material creation using Excel documents, and having that capability to understand how to use spreadsheets is really important. And fundamentally, for anybody that wants to work on the shop floor, blueprint reading is key to understanding what needs to be done. And I would say anybody that's truly interested in working on a shop floor, if you can take any type of blueprint reading courses, and then as they move on to maybe a technical school, whether it be a college or just a specialty school, we do partner with the likes of FSCJ as well as UNF to bring in interns or full-time personnel. So those are some of the key areas in addition to the technical skills that we look for.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Pauline. And that actually is a great segue into the next question. Educators are always wondering, how can I advise my students to best connect with industry? And you mentioned the word internships. I'm thinking internships, part-time jobs. What is it? What can educators share with their students as far as your companies and opportunities in which their students can connect? Orv?
Well, first of all, Northrop Grumman has a foundation that's committed to expanding and enhancing a pipeline with STEM. So educators can always contact the corporate offices and get involved in the corporate citizenship teams that we have that participate in that. We have internships for engineers, for example, if they're going to into an engineering discipline where they can apply for an internship and work during the summer when they're off school and then go back to school. And if they continue that path and perform acceptably, they can then get a guaranteed job offer at the end of their, once they earn their degree. From the manufacturing standpoint, I told you the only entryway, unless you have, like Michael had mentioned, a military background in aviation, the only way to get into an entry-level position here as a mechanic is to go through First Coast Technical College here locally. In one semester, they learn the skills for the manufacturing processes. You heard them talk about blueprint reading. They go through that. They learn the mathematics that are needed for hole layouts and the different family types of fasteners and things that are needed to perform the mechanical assembly of our aircraft.
Okay, great. So a very short-term training opportunity could lead to a long-term job. So that's always good to know. Pauline.
So again, we're on a much smaller scale. Oftentimes what I'm doing is I'll reach out to the local colleges when we do have an internship position open, and or if we have a full-time position open, I'll do the same thing. We do work with Career Source Northeast Florida, so that's a good tool as well. And Employ Florida, individuals can put their resumes out on the website. I definitely recommend to anybody, whether it's a teacher or student who's interested in learning more, go to the company's websites, learn more about them. They often have opportunities for career paths. Contact the company, try to perform some outreach to them. And I actually just hired somebody, he contacted us through our website. So you never know how that's going to work. And LinkedIn, I think everybody's becoming more and more accustomed to using LinkedIn. Reach out, connect to different people in the industry. If there's a company you're interested in, express your interest and go from there.
Wonderful, thank you. And Michael, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I kind of mentioned it before, and it's easier around like the engineering and the 4-year degrees. There's a lot of material out there on the web in Boeing's website. And then Boeing also has a BoeingFutureU.com that has information for individuals and also for educators. It's more around the aerospace manufacturing, engineering. Usually when Boeing has internships, they'll post them on their Boeing Net Career website. We do work really well with UNF here, UCF, and the University of Florida for engineering. But kind of going back to the mechanic level and the technicians, it's FSCJ, they have a structural class to get a certification. That's kind of how you can get your foot in the door here at Jacksonville Boeing in our Flight Control Repair Center. We'll haul them straight out of that class. More so around the mechanical expertise on the F-18, kind of like Orville said, is we look for those that are coming out of the military that specifically had that experience. I worked on the F-18 because that's a turnkey mechanic. We can get them here, get the basic training, and we can use them right away. So I know but since we have a small site here, we are having those conversations, because I know in Charleston, we had 8,000 employees. And so there was more investment into the local high schools and to the local community college. And so I'm having that conversation with my site director here. As an example, in Louisville, Kentucky, where UPS's maintenance facility is, Shawnee High School has an A&P program as high schoolers. They can start getting that, and they hire them right out of high school, because you got to think about your future and start getting them right when you get good careers right out of high school is a great opportunity to market yourself better as a pipeline for an employee.
Exactly. And there is definitely an interest in knowing if there are any jobs that high school graduates can access. We've talked about some jobs that require some training, although short term, up to a 4-year degree. But certainly if there are any in your organization that a high school graduate could access, we certainly would like to hear about that as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So our next question, we've sort of touched on it. So the specific certificates, degrees, and credentials that you look for in new hires. We've chatted about that a little bit, but if there are some occupations and degrees that your organization looks for that we have not mentioned yet, certainly do that. And then, what do most successful new hires do to meet or exceed your expectations? What do you want to see from them that first year on the job? So kind of a 2-part question. And to lead us in the response is going to be Pauline.
Thanks, Julie. So first and foremost, when we're looking at resumes, we're looking for somebody that's got a relevant skill set. And then we're going to really dive deeper into the soft skills. And I think that's where it ties in for me as to what's going to make you successful. In terms of, do you have good communication when you're on the job? Are you coordinating well with your peers? Are you being flexible and versatile in your role? It's really about collaboration. It truly is a team effort. And all of these soft skills will make somebody excel in their job. And it goes back again to the work ethic. I think anybody, no matter what you decide to do in your career, those things hold true. We're very proactive about saying, I'll hire somebody out of high school or out of college without having the full skill set and train them up on our processes. But we're definitely looking for that demonstrated work ethic and collaboration with peers.
Excellent. Thank you. Orv.
So Pauline and Michael have both touched on it a little bit already, but the team environment, we don't have anybody working here independently by themselves. Either you work together and gel as a team, or you're not going to be successful. There isn't any other alternative. And so we actually have teams that we're separated by what we call cost centers, for example. So as the aircraft moves down and starts being built, and that team in that cost center is solely responsible for working together and meeting cost and schedule requirements. So even though it may be a technician or a group of technicians that are doing that work there, they understand more than just the assembly part. They're learning about cost and schedule impacts, design change impacts. They're also developing process improvements. So there's a lot to it other than just turning a wrench that the technicians get involved with. And then from an engineering aspect, I mean, there's so many different ways. I mean, industrial engineering, manufacturing engineering, the artificial engineering, communications engineering. I mean, you can go on and on. But those are all degrees that can be attained based on a person's specific interest. Again, I'm focused on the manufacturing sites that we have, and we're very interested in the individuals that show that they want to invest in themselves by going through a program like a First Coast Technical College. It shows some initiative and their own investment of time because they're interested in entering our industry. And those are extremely good employees. When we bring them on board, absolutely, they don't know how to build an airplane yet, but they understand the basics of reading drawings, understand the terminology, and they know how to operate safely. And then we set them with one of our senior mechanics, and they work side by side for about a year. And then we turn them loose to work independently within that team. So it's a great partnership that works well.
Excellent. I like the idea of the mentorship, working with a senior mechanic to kind of learn the best practices that person has determined that work best over time. So that's a fantastic opportunity for those that come in with those basic skills. Okay, great. Michael, how can educators and students best connect at Boeing?
Best connect to Boeing, or were we on what specific certifications and degrees?
Yes.
Yeah, so similar to what Pauline and Orville stated, I mean, I think we touched on it a little bit. I mean, obviously, engineering degrees can get you in the door for industrial engineer, mechanical engineer, aerospace engineering, FAA, A&P license, will get you in the door, the specific experience on F-18s. But I think like more from new hires out of high school, they got the structural certification here at FSCJ. But what would make that new hire successful in the first year? Kind of going back to, I think, I don't remember if it was Pauline or Orville said, comprehension, communication, basic computer skills, the ability or the willingness to learn new things, right? If you want to grow within the company, being able to follow instructions. I mean, what we do is we're putting aircraft in the air, and safety is paramount. And we've got compliance requirements that we have to meet for the safety of the people and the safety of our product, and just making sure that we're building it or putting the aircraft back together per specific instructions. I think Pauline said it, the blueprint capability to read and understand. That's going to make you successful in that first year. And kind of going back to the basics too. We see people come in here and they're not reliable. They don't show up to work every day. That's a, we're a small site, and some areas have very small teams. And when somebody doesn't show up, it puts more of the load on the rest of the teammates, and so somebody who's not accountable and reliable, they get weeded out pretty quick.
Yeah, you have to realize that your choices and decisions have consequences that affect the whole team and the products that you're trying to put in the air. So, yep. Point well taken. Thank you. We sort of touched on this opportunities for career advancement. Y'all talked a little bit about some internal training programs, the opportunity for tuition reimbursement. But is there anything else we have not spoken to yet that you would like to share that allows individuals to kind of move up or move laterally throughout the organization through cross training or formal training? Or what would you say to that?
Yeah, so within Northrop Grumman, and I know from my contacts at Boeing and Lockheed that, people are able to move from functional organization to functional organization based on an interest and or capability. So, lateral and promotional opportunities occur throughout somebody's career. I talked about the mentorship for the technicians. We do the same thing for the salaried employees as well. And so if they show an interest in an area, we'll let them shadow somebody for a while and see if that's really where they want to go. My degrees are in business, so I'm certainly not doing that here at Northrop Grumman. I'm in operations, but it does have an effect on my career as far as making sure that I understand the business that we have. So it's very helpful. But again, back when I started 33 years ago, it wasn't required to have a degree to be in management and those things. It is now. But as I progressed, I wanted to go ahead and get my degree. And because I had the technical experience, I thought that I was better off getting a business degree so that I understood the business itself. I'm not sure if I directly answered your question at this point, but I gave
you did.
Okay.
You did. I like the idea that the mentoring takes place at a variety of levels throughout the organization. I think that's good for people to know. And that you can pursue your degree while you are working within the industry too. So yes, that was helpful. Michael, what are your thoughts?
So, my career is a great example, but I kind of touched on that at the beginning. Boeing has one of the best tuition assistance program. Actually, it's not really assistance. They pay 100% for your bachelor's degree and 100% for your master's. I think after the first year you're here, they'll pay a bachelor's, and 3 years after being an employee, they'll pay 100% to your master's. which I got my MBA here at Boeing and paid 100%. I didn't have to pay it first. So that's one of the great benefits that Boeing has to offer. Because like Orville said, right now, we don't require the first line managers to have a degree if they've got the technical expertise to be in that position, but it's coming pretty fast that we're going to mandatory all management to have a degree and a master's degree in order to move up higher. But Boeing has, it's called our Learning Together program. We also have a website we can go through to, it's internal to Boeing. It's like boeingdegree.com, and you can go get just special classes if you want to learn more about Microsoft Office and how to work a PowerPoint or Access or Excel. Got classes in there you can take, and you can go get your pilot's license. I mean, there's a lot of opportunity within Boeing, and it kind of goes back to what Pauline said. It's your work ethic. And if you come in here and you're a go-getter and a high performer, you're going to succeed, and you'll have plenty of opportunity to move up.
That's excellent. Many opportunities. That's why we need to keep enticing our students to want to get into this amazing industry. And Pauline.
So we're a small company. Our benefits are not as vast, unfortunately, as Boeing and Northrop Grumman. However, what I feel is a benefit of the small company experience is the ability to be hands-on in so many different areas. We require all of our employees to support one another. So there's been times where we've had some of our electrical technicians help us up with bill of material creation because somebody's out, but they know how to read the prints and they know how to use Excel. So it's just dependent upon where the needs are, and everybody jumps in and pitches in to where it's required. We do often reach out to our employees too and ask them, is there an area you want to work on? We had one of our shipping clerks said, I really want to learn how to use the water jet. So we trained him on how to operate the water jet. So there's a lot of unique opportunities like that, which make it more endearing, if you will, for the small company.
Excellent. And that's where that teamwork comes into play, where that skill is an absolute necessity. And then I love the idea of, an employee showed initiative and you responded, and now that employee has a completely new skill set. Mm-hmm. So there's kind of those employability skills in action with a concrete example right there. So great. Thank you so much. I'm hearing you all talk about teamwork and working together. Certainly that's become more of a challenge, I would imagine, in light of our COVID pandemic. So one of the questions we would just like to pose to the three of you, what are some things that you've learned as a result of COVID that will have lasting impacts on aviation and aerospace manufacturing moving forward? Maybe something that's changed as far as processes or policies. How has the pandemic impacted you? And Michael, if you would start, please.
Well, I have to wear a mask every day unless I'm in my office and have the door shut. That's the big, and I kind of got this because I've only been with Boeing 10 years. But I think they said back, talking to my boss, back in the 80s, Boeing tried to do this where the engineers were more virtual working, off the shop floor, and it didn't work. So they mandatoried everybody to come back and rally around the operations team and to be hands-on, because you can't build or work on aircraft virtually. And so I think that's been one of the biggest challenges here, is to minimize our spread on site. Obviously we wear the mask, we're wiping down all the high touch points multiple times a day to try to make sure, we aren't spreading the virus. And anybody that could take their laptop home and work from home, went home. The challenge is, as we are, it's how do you connect to the shop floor being on a computer at your house? And that's where our biggest challenge has been is, and we just had the conversation today is, if my manager has to run and find where that engineer is or get back on his computer to ask for, hey, when's my disposition coming out to do this repair? That's minutes that it's taken away from him actually working with his team to do the job. And so that's the biggest challenge that we've seen so far is how do we get people back connected, especially when they're working virtually?
Right. Looking at it from an efficiency standpoint,
Yeah.
getting that product completed. Understood. Pauline, what have you learned at Grace?
I think there's been a lot of pros and cons to the environment that we're in. Similar to my counterparts, they're probably in the same boat in that we are deemed essential personnel because we are supporting the military. So those individuals that need to manufacture product for military aircraft still were required to come in, whereas probably many of their friends and family are working from home. So keeping that morale up and having them understand that we appreciate them coming into work every day. So that's a biggie for us. But we also realize that many of our support personnel can work remotely. And it's made us become more flexible with that environment. We do need to ensure that communication is strong and similar to what Michael said. You can't be waiting on somebody who's at home and not accessible. And I do feel that the team is very communicative and they respond timely to those needs. So we're finding that it's actually working. So I think that's a big pro for us. It's also made us realize the importance of certain aspects that were always important before, but even more so, for example, business continuity and ensuring that we have strong capabilities to reach our employees in the event of an emergency. So we, unfortunately, when COVID first struck, I think it was a Saturday, we found out that a few employees had tested positive and we had to do an all-out outreach to all of our employees and ensure that they got tested if they were in proximity, et cetera. So it's making us fine tune some of those logistics here as well.
Got it. Okay. Very good insight. Orv, what have you learned during the pandemic?
Well, Michael and Pauline both touched on it. You can't build product without being on site. And being on site means that we as a corporation have a responsibility to make sure that our employees are in as safe an environment as we can make it during these times with COVID. So, there were protocols established on cleaning and proximities to each other and the mask wearing and all of those things. And we put those in place early on. They've been highly effective. So we haven't had any major disruption in our manufacturing process, as I'm sure Pauline and Michael have done at their locations as well. But we did find, as Pauline touched on, that there were some jobs that can remain remote and probably will forever, that didn't need to be on site on a daily basis. I still believe that human contact and continuity you get in having face-to-face meetings probably still needs to occur, just not on an everyday basis. When you're in a team environment, it's important for people to see each other, be able to read body language, all of those elements for good communication. And if somebody's offsite 100% of the time, never comes back in, you kind of lose some of that. So, you know, there'll be some kind of leveling once we get beyond these COVID issues, and I think all of us will have some number of jobs that will remain permanently remote. But again, as I know Michael said as well, that you know, you got to have the support people. So the engineers that need to do the dispositioning of the hardware and those kinds of things, the global supply chain people that need to process the parts to get them to manufacturing all need to be here. So, you know, that involves then the transportation folks, so they need to be here. Anyway, you know, the logistics of doing the manufacturing process will always need to continue, and those people will always need to be on site.
Excellent. Thank you all for sharing your insight on that question. Next, do you have examples of employees who had skills or education from a completely different industry that turned out to be a great fit for you? Michael, do you have any examples to share with us this morning?
I mean, painters, automotive painters do translate really well, because we do have a small paint department here that we, and that's pretty much what we hire, is if you have automotive painting experience, you're a great fit. This one was a surprise to me, but cake decorators. They're, especially when it comes to sealing, because we have a lot of panels and parts that need to be sealed up. They have that artistic dexterity, you know, to be very good sealers, which is kind of unique, you know. You know, really any kind of mechanical, automotive, or body work that will translate well into our industry as far as mechanics and technicians go. Those definitely help.
Excellent. That is insightful, especially the cake decorating part.
Yeah.
I would not have ever projected that that would be a skill needed, but it makes sense.
Yeah.
It's great. Or what employees have you seen that have been really successful from other industries?
I don't know, but I guess I'm going to have to go down to the local manufacturing of cakes and things and see what else we can get for some sealers. You know, it's a great thing. Veterans, number one. You know, if they come out with the experience, we're all about that. They're our primary customer, and bringing them into the industry is exceptional. They have the discipline for the being there every single day as part of the team, and they understand the missing link if they're not there. So that's important. Any kind of precision manufacturing background is also helpful. Michael mentioned automotive. You know, we do composite material, which is directly relatable to fiberglass and things. So even somebody that was working on, for example, boats or in the boat industry might have the right kind of aptitude to learn the composites material. And then electricians, whether it was automotive or boat, wiring, harness, routing, and those kinds of things. Those folks work out very well. It's also.
Excellent. Okay, Pauline.
I think Michael and Orr have touched on some of the key aspects, and to their point, yes, all of those things translate very well. We do have a significant number of veterans working for us as well. And I think that gives them pride in what they're doing too, on top of having a translatable skill set. As we talked about earlier, students coming out of college or high school that we're able to train up and partner with a more skilled associate, that's great because you're getting them in tune with your processes. So you can always train someone, and that's been a big success for us. And just as a side note, our vice president of manufacturing operations has an accounting degree, so he you never really know what skill sets people have, and I think he's definitely got an accounting mind, but he's a brilliant engineer as well. So you never know.
Exactly. That's the fun part about career pathways, right? If you were taking the initiative and you're interested and you want to learn something new, you certainly can, and you can be very successful doing it. That's great. So words of wisdom for those entering the industry. Maybe what do you wish you would have known, or what would you share with somebody if they came to you and said, or what would you like to share with me so that I know in advance, some insight? So, or what would you say?
Well, number one, I'm a third generation aerospace worker. So my grandfather and father both retired from Lockheed. I had no intention on going this direction. I was a combat medic in the military. I planned on staying in that field, and when I got out, there just wasn't any employment in that area. So I started my own business, and then ultimately got into a small aerospace valve manufacturing company. And from there, went to Northrop Grumman. I had no idea how much I was going to enjoy the aerospace industry. Northrop Grumman's given me so many opportunities from, I've worked on every aircraft we've done, the B-2 bomber, the E-2 that we built here in St. Augustine, a multitude of other platforms that are classified, and it's just been one thing after another that are, it's just been exciting. And as long as you have an open mind to, I've always been the one to volunteer to go where help was needed. And in doing so, it's kept my career, I think, very fresh. Because to be honest with you, the day-to-day routine of standard production bores me. I like the development. I like seeing other platforms. And that's why I volunteered to go do all those other things. Some people like the day-to-day effort, and it's good. We need both kinds of people in aerospace.
Excellent words of wisdom there. Thank you. Pauline, what would you share with somebody asking for your words of wisdom?
I'm taking notes of what Orv and Michael have to say because I'm fairly new to the industry. I'll just tell you, based on my experience so far, it's a really exciting industry to be part of, and having more of a financial background and coming into this, it's really cool to walk around a shop floor and see the parts that individuals are manufacturing and how people are talking to one another on the floor, and then to eventually show an end product that is going to be part of military aircraft that are going to protect our country. It's a very rewarding job.
That's awesome. Michael, what would you say?
I would say be flexible. And what I mean by that is, sometimes you start out with a plan and you knock, and that door never opens. And so sometimes you might need to take a lateral move or even maybe a step back. My career is a clear example. Well, when I was a structure mechanic in the Navy, I desperately wanted to get on the Blue Angels, and that never happened. I never got selected. After retiring, taking the early retirement at Delta Airlines and working my own business with the the 2008 credit market crashing, I went and became a structural mechanic, went back to my box, was able to work my way up. And, it's funny, ironically, now as the senior operation manager here, one of the cool things that we just did was we took the 11 E&F models and converted to the new Blue Angels, which they're going to be flying in their air show this year. And so kind of in a roundabout way, 20 something years later, I'm actually a part of something that I dreamed of being a part back when I was a structural mechanic. And, when you look at my career path, it wasn't a straight line. It was a probably zigzag and a big round circle to come all the way back to it. So you got to be flexible, and you got to be willing to take things that you might not thought you were willing to take, in order to make what your end goal would be.
Very good. And that is so exciting about the Blue Angels. That is really cool. Seeing that dream come to fruition in a different way.
Yeah, I was disappointed they canceled the April air show here at NAS Jax.
Well, hopefully more great things to come soon so we can all enjoy it. Excellent. Well, thank you for that. And our last question this morning, what does the future of your industry or your organization look like nationally and here in Northeast Florida? Just kind of projecting out for those on the call today, what this is going to look like. Pauline.
It was great with the introduction of Cecil Field in the beginning of the discussion, because specifically in this area, there is just tremendous growth. And to hear the story of the progress that's been made through the years is fantastic. As I mentioned, we're located here. We're actually doing business with a number of our customers in Cecil Field as well. So the proximity to one another just makes the logistics so strong. It's a great place to be. And I foresee a lot of growth in this area, and really looking forward to see what happens next.
Awesome. Michael.
Yeah, so nationally for Boeing, there's quite a bit. I mean, like, being close to the Space Coast here, on that Future U website, we're building the SLS rocket to go to Mars. So they're actually have a good promotion on trying to get the future astronauts to ride on that rocket, which is phenomenal itself. And they're building it over in New Orleans, so it's not too far away for those that want to go that route. And I think, there's multiple places nationally for Boeing, but more so here locally is what's exciting for me is we've got approval and the public announcements out there that we're building a 270,000 square foot hangar with 100,000 square foot of office space on the other side of the airport. That's probably going to increase our numbers by, we'll probably almost double our employment numbers here. Future work that we do have coming that hasn't been announced yet, which is the reason why they're investing, I think it's $137 million in that facility. And so that's pretty cool and it's exciting, especially for the Jacksonville area. And so we will definitely, over the next 3 years, be hiring a lot of people.
Very good to know. We're always thinking about that workforce pipeline. We got to prep people now for those jobs that are coming. And Orv.
Well, naturally, from a corporation standpoint, we're continuing to hire, regardless of the COVID restrictions and things like that. We haven't stopped our hiring at all. Our workforce itself, and I know Boeing and Lockheed and some others have the same issue. The workforce is aged. I'm evidence of it. And so we're all already, I saw you smile, Michael. We're already working on trying to get that backfill done, right? It's going to take a number of years of mentoring folks and and things of that nature. So yes, we're going to continue hiring throughout the country and including for our overseas operations. As far as North Florida goes, right now we're currently the largest industrial employer in St. Johns County. Like I said, we have around 1,000 people here, but fluctuates back and forth a little bit. We do plan on expanding our portfolio here into doing some composite manufacturing. The E2D, which is the primary product here, is a 1950s era designed metal airplane. None of that's being done anymore. So we will expand it composites, and we're working with First Coast Technical College on that now. And then maybe even expand into some autonomous aircraft manufacturing here at this site as well. I don't know how much people know about autonomous aircraft outside of our industry, but you know, you need to have a corridor for those maiden flights to occur where you're not putting the population in any kind of danger. And this is an ideal opportunity here, having the Atlantic Ocean just a stone's throw away for those kinds of operations.
Excellent. Well, I think the main message is opportunities abound. Educators can go back into their classrooms and really promote this subset of manufacturing with their students, encourage them to be part of this career pathway. So certainly I want to thank each of you for your time and your expertise this morning. I know our audience is going to really appreciate the insight you've shared. So we're giving you a virtual round of applause. You can't hear us, but know that we're thanking you in that way for your time with us this morning.